Yes, guys. Hello. Welcome back to the Spurs-related YouTube channel. Hope everyone's doing very well on this Sunday afternoon. Today, we are going to bring you all the latest transfer news and clues from Tottenham Hotspur. And of course, the main one, as you can see by the title of the video, is to do with Mohamed Kudus, who we've been speaking about for the last week or so. And we'll get into exactly what has happened with that. But guys, you've been smashing the support on the channel lately, even when we go live. And then afterwards, everyone loves watching on repeat. Keep smashing your comments in. Keep hitting that like button. We almost broke 100 likes last video. Can we get 100 likes? I'd massively appreciate it if we can. But, guys, let's get into things. Back alongside Frank, Thomas Frank, our version of Thomas Frank, but AI. Frank, how you doing, mate?
I'm all good. It's nice that we've actually got a somewhat sensible update today. So hopefully, you know, we can get into it and it ends up happening.
Love it, mate. Looking forward to it. We'll be going live for about 30-40 minutes. Stu's in here, says, yes, lads. Stu, always first in. Really appreciate your support, mate. And Milton saying love from Australia. Appreciate that, mate. Frank, let's get into things. And what I'll do is I'll also put in some timestamps for those watching on repeat if you want to skip to a particular topic that we speak about today. And of course, as Milton said, rest in peace, Jota. And his brother, I mean, terrible. Hit me like a ton of bricks the other day. But yeah, massive condolences to his family. Can't imagine what they're going through. But let's get into Tottenham transfer news. So, Mohamed Kudus, as we just discussed, this is the latest update that West Ham, according to David Ornstein of The Athletic, is saying that West Ham have tonight received an offer from Tottenham Hotspur to sign Mohamed Kudus. Bid was worth £50 million. And bear in mind, guys, we were discussing Mohamed Kudus' release clause at 80 to 90 million pounds. I think it was 86. And we've bid this amount. It just screams of Tottenham. But anyway, the idea was that West Ham would accept around 60 to 65 million, we believe. And to bid 50 million, Frank, I don't know what you're thinking here, but the fact it's obviously been rejected, it's been turned down, but direct club-to-club talks still continue, and apparently there's no issues with the personal terms here. Do you just think this is a bit silly bidding 50 million, just knowing that they're going to reject it? We know that they're going to probably accept around 60, so why bid 50? Like, are we just trying to be a bit? It reminds me of like when Arsenal tried to get Luis Suarez and they bid 30 million and £1. Like, just bid what they want, you know, like it's just ridiculous.
Well, I mean, the bit that gets me, that I was talking to a mate last night who's a West Ham fan, and he was saying that he thinks there'll be almost a Tottenham tax because they just won't. Tottenham and West Ham don't do business together, as Tottenham and Chelsea don't, and Tottenham and Arsenal don't. You know, but they're all happy to trade within each other. But we don't tend to do business with those, and so there will almost be kind of maybe a little added price for Kudus if we want him. Having said that, I don't think that Tottenham would have just gone in and gone 50 without having a chat. So I don't think they will be a million miles away from what West Ham are actually asking for if they're bidding 50. Because if West Ham are saying we want 85 and we ain't budging, there's absolutely no reason to bid 50 unless it's a smokescreen for someone else. Because it is literally pointless, because you ain't getting him for 35 million cheaper than if they ain't budging. So the fact they've gone for 50 suggests that they probably will budge, and they're probably not a million miles away. It might still be 65, might still be 15 million away. And it's in that case then worth going a little bit lower and seeing. But also, because 15 million is a lot of money. When it annoys me with the tightness occasionally is when they decide to bid 3 million less than what a player's worth and things like that. So
yeah,
if they want 55, pay 55. If it's 65, I don't mind them starting at 50, push it up to 58 or whatever, and try and see if they'll budge. If they won't budge, and you really genuinely want him, and Thomas Frank wants him, then go and buy him, and go and because this is the sort of backing that we talk about that often doesn't happen. They dilly dally with things and then miss out. So if he's someone that you genuinely want, and they want 65, and they ain't going to budge at all, then go and pay him 65.
Yeah, No, I completely agree. I think for me, 50 million is still like you said, they've been discussing, but that's clearly lower than what the valuation is. You know, if someone has an 80 to 90 million pound release clause, right, even if it's high 70s, we know it's in the 80s, right? That to bid 50 million, which if you think about it like that is 60% of that value. That is, and we know that West Ham, we know from Fabrizio Romano and other sources that West Ham will accept less than that release clause. However, I just feel like 50 million is just, I just think it's way too low. I think 60 million will be the next bid, or potentially we'll do 55 first. Who knows? What have we got in the chat? Lots of people coming in. Lots of debates in the chat. I love it. Kudus. A lot of people saying love him. Great player, versatile, beats his man, exciting. Lots of people also saying way too much. £60 million for 5 goals a season, says Big Bad Rom. Well, I'll let you guys debate it out in the chat. I'll let you guys debate it in the comments if you're watching on repeat. But out of interest, people saying out of interest, we'll do a little fan engagement thing at the end or in the middle, saying who your ideal window is, because I like doing that after a few weeks. You know, people saying they want a number 6 and who it is, and a striker and a left back. Destiny Doji saying, hey guys, was there not a report that we completed a deal to sign Nicolo Pisili? Frank's nodding his head. Frank, is that true?
There was a report about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think. I think he's the young kid at Roma. I'm not, 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he's the young midfielder at Roma. I had a watch for the time, and he looked like a decent player. But he's been, I think, at the under-21 Euros, or he's been at one of the youth tournaments. I don't know which one. Yeah. And so I imagine that if something is going to happen with him, which, I mean, given that Paratici's in the fold and they like young players, and I mean, it would make sense that then I guess it will happen later in the window when he's back from his holiday and whatever. But I don't know if that actually, there was one report that I read, whether or not it happens, I don't know.
Got it. And the other report on Kudus is from Fabrizio. He's saying Spurs are set to bid again for Mohamed Kudus next week, as the player's keen on joining Spurs. Chelsea have apparently also been in touch with Kudus's camp, with more clubs also interested, but Spurs want to accelerate. They want to be at the forefront of this. And listen, we've seen it before when we've tried to sign a winger in the form of Willian. Tried to get there ahead of Chelsea, and Chelsea have just come in and bid and taken him off our hands. And obviously, he literally. The story is that Willian was at Tottenham about to have his medical, I believe, and literally got a helicopter over to Stamford Bridge, and yeah, the rest is history, right? But yeah, I just don't want to see. The thing is, I understand there's a lot of people in the chat already not a fan of Kudus, and everyone's obviously entitled to their own opinion. I don't think I wouldn't put him in like the world class category, but he certainly upgrades our team. He certainly improves our team, and he's certainly a player that's versatile, that can cover lots of different positions, which is great in Thomas Frank's fluid system. But I do understand their reservations. However, we haven't done anything this window. We've signed a £5 million centre back from Japan, who arguably is probably not going to get into our first team, certainly not straight away. And we've re-signed Matthias Tell, and we've got, I think, 2 weeks till our first pre-season game. We need to do something. And I'm not saying just feed off scraps and get anyone, but Mohamed Kudus is an upgrade on certain players in our team, and that's what we want to be doing. We've got 4 big competitions to play in. This for me is a great start. I'll be honest. I think it's a great start, and I just want Spurs to get it done, because I don't want us to be sitting here in 2 or 3 days' time. Chelsea have gone, bang, Spurs are messing about. They're trying to bid 50 million. We'll come in with big boy money, 60 million, bang, there you go, West Ham. Shake your hand, deal done. Right, because I can see that happening if we don't sort of sort ourselves out. Do you agree, Frank?
I do. We're usually very slow with doing things, and we dilly-dally, and we end up losing players. On a slightly different note, I saw it come up then, obviously not to talk about, I don't want to talk about them, but that they signed Zubamendi, Arsenal, about 20 minutes ago. And Fabrizio Romano put out a thing just now that they're now close to signing Gyökeres as well.
Just seen that, yeah.
And so that would suggest, and I could be wrong, but that'd be sort of 130 million-ish, I imagine, on the two players.
Yeah.
I mean, it's starting to reduce the need as such and the likelihood, I think, of Eze. So I think that's still one that that's
good point.
Made me wonder a little bit. I'm still not. I mean, neither of them are attacking midfielders, but maybe Arsenal look a little bit away from that if they're going for that Mosquera. I think it is the centre back as well. That maybe they look away from Eze as someone that they don't actually need right now. So I'd be very happy with either of them. I like Kudus, like Eze. But yeah, that's just on a sort of a side note. Going back, I mean, I think Kudus improves us. I think, as you say, we tend to take our time with things, and we do miss out on things because of that. But having said that, Kudus, I think, as you say, would come in, and I think he improves us. I said the other day, I don't think we have a ball carrier, like a one that does it at pace at least. And I think he comes in and he offers you something that Tottenham don't have. I mean, I think there's probably been one time in the whole of last season where I got off my seat in excitement of watching someone run round another player, and that's probably that 25 minutes of Mikey Moore against Alkmaar. Where you're watching him run rings around people. It was brilliant. We don't have a player that does that and gets you off your seat and drives at people and creates things. And I think Kudus probably is that.
No, 100%, 100% agree.
By that.
Sorry, I've got while the iron's hot, I've got a strike. Right, Big Bad Rom. This is why I love talking points in this chat. He's basically saying, are we being zombified or am I the zombie on Kudus? Now, listen, I am not Mohamed Kudus's number one fan. I'm just not, okay? But as Frank and I are saying, I think he improves our team, he's available, and he'd be a great addition to our team. And where was it? I can't even bring up the message because you've sworn about 3 times in it. But you said basically, where is the database stemming from? Did we buy it in Aldi or Lidl? Well, again, I'd like to just put a few facts on screen for you. Let me just get this on screen for you. Here we go. Right. Mohamed Kudus. This isn't from, just to clarify, this isn't from Aldi or Lidl. So successful take-ons. At the moment, Tottenham Hotspur do not have a player that can beat a man, that can change a game, that can take a ball and bomb down the wing, get past 1 or 2 players and put in a decent ball, right? And I understand what your argument is going to be in the sense that 8 goals or assists in 30-odd games this season. However, as Frank's also said in previous videos, Kudus is playing in a pretty poor West Ham team. And in a Thomas Frank system, Kudus could basically be our Embuemo, even better. Top 97 percentile, right, for successful take-ons. That means he's literally one of the best in the entire business of beating a man, taking on a player, and doing exciting things, right? There's also these stats. Take-ons attempted. He tries 7 take-ons per game. 7 take-ons. I mean, that's high numbers. Shots, loves shots, top 90 percentile for shot creating actions, making things happen, creating opportunities, creating goal scoring opportunities. That is why I think Kudus improves Tottenham, because at the moment on the right, we have Brennan Johnson. I like Brennan Johnson. He gets goals, he gets in the right positions and he finishes, but he's not a natural winger. I actually think he's more of a second striker. Bit like how he played for Nottingham Forest, getting in around the box and finishing. Frank, I don't know if you have anything to add on this, but listen, I'm getting people in the chat saying Kudus is not a good player. I disagree.
Yeah, there's one comment that I want to pick up on from Big Bad Rom that's made me laugh. Is Timo Werner was beating his man every time. Just for contrast, I mean, I think you said that Kudus' successful take-ons were 90. He was in the 97th percentile, I think you said. Yeah. Just for contrast, Timo Werner's the 40th percentile.
There we go.
There is a major difference. I'm just looking at Werner's stats here. I mean, also, there's some of it.
Sorry. Also, Werner doesn't actually really get past players. He just runs in behind, basically, for a through ball. And I think one of the best things he did for Tottenham was run in behind Man City when we beat them away. I think it was 4-1. And he played actually pretty decent in that game. And it's because we basically counter-attacked. He got the ball played through to him on the wide areas. drive, and put the ball across. And I think it was Johnson or I can't remember who finished it. It might have even been Porro from that goal. Like, that is Timo Werner, completely different players. So again, yeah, love to cause debates, love to chat. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Of course, no one's right, no one's wrong. But I just think it's good to debate these points, especially when you've got stats to back up the points here. And I mean, his output in European competitions, as we discussed before, very, very decent. 5 goals in 9 appearances for West Ham, hat-trick in that season for Ajax, 4 in 6. Decent player, European experience as well. I just think I'm not supporting mediocrity. I'm just not. I think if you ask the fan base, 80% of people will be happy with Kudus. I think that's fair to say. There we go. Apparently, anyway, listen, everyone's entitled to their opinion, Ron. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying Kudus is a good player. Right, let's leave Kudus now, because I feel like it's just it's not going anywhere. The other thing is also, how many players in our team at the moment can play across 4 or 5 positions? Kudus, in his earlier days, was playing in central midfield. Then he progressed into more of a right winger. And then he also plays a lot of games at left wing and as a centre forward. We'll come back to you in 6 months. We'll leave it at that. Right. Let's move on. Let's talk about the next point, Frank, because obviously Kudus, we're expecting another bid to come in. That's likely to happen in the next probably by tomorrow. But let's see if that progresses any further. Will we up the bid? I'm sure we will, as per Fabrizio Romano is saying. Now, a bit of a new subject. Rodrigo Muniz, Brazilian striker for Fulham. Now, hit a massive purple patch last season, right? Decent player. According to some sources, and I do want to point it out, it's definitely not a tier 1 source, probably not even a tier 2 source. But apparently Rodrigo Muniz is on Tottenham's radar, and it seems like Spurs are sort of searching for another striker or another forward that can basically fill in when Solanke's gone. Obviously, it looks like Veliz will be out the door. That one didn't go to plan, the young Argentinian player. But we have to discuss this one, Frank, because does Thomas Frank need another forward? Is he essentially looking at another striker? Do you think we should expect another striker in the door before pre-season starts? And could it be Muniz?
I think certainly before the window shuts, we need another striker, yeah. Richarlison, I think, should and probably will go. I mean, we spoke about Richarlison the other day, so I won't go too much into it, but we kind of said that, he is never really fit, and that is an issue, because the best ability is availability and all that, and he's if he's not there, he's useless. It's the simple, you need players that are gonna, and especially when we have so many games to play next season, 48 the bare minimum, you need 2 players in every position, and Richarlison almost gives you 1.5 because he's there for such a limited amount of time. Solanke never got injured at Bournemouth, got injured 4 or 5 times on separate occasions last year. I imagine that was probably an Ange style thing as well, and hopefully that will drop down this year. But you need cover, and so Richarlison, I think, will go, and I think they'll bring a new one in. Having said that, I'm not sure if Muniz is the right one. I like Muniz. He only started 8 games this year, but only missed about 7 through injury. So I just think he was second choice. The rumor, again, not a superb source, but the rumor was that they bid £32 million and it was rejected. Leeds bid 26, and that was turned down as well, obviously, and that they want close to 50. I wouldn't be paying 50 for him. I think you can go and find players of probably, they've got all their scouting networks and things of similar sort of numbers and this and that, who we don't know about in, like when we found Bergvall in Sweden or wherever. These guys, you can go and find kids that are 5 years younger, as Muniz is 22, 23. Go and find these 18, 19-year-olds who are happy to be bit part players for now. And yet still make an impact, but are good enough now to make an impact. Whereas I think if Muniz sort of makes that big transfer of £50 million or whatever, you kind of expect to play, and I don't think he will as a starter. But yeah, so that's kind of my thought on Muniz. I like him. I think he's a decent player, and he's been on a couple of quite good runs. He scored against us, I think, again in March time. I think he scored this season against us.
Yeah,
I feel like he scored a few goals against us.
I feel like I also zoned out from the Premier League at times because it was just so demoralising. But good points. Yeah, I think, just to echo what you're saying, I don't think he's worth 50 million, but yeah, I think there's certainly players of a similar ilk, perhaps even better for available for more. But obviously, he's he's pretty important to Fulham, especially when he's on form. I know he kind of competes with Raul Jimenez as the striker, but when he's on form, when he hit that purple patch, he was really being hyped up, wasn't he? So I don't think Fulham will want to sell him A, to a Premier League rival, and B, for cheap. That's why essentially his value is about 200% worth more than what he's worth, essentially. We'll talk about some of the links in the chat in just a minute. Here we go. He says, Mr. G saying, using the Kudus logic you were using, surely Spurs should bid 50 million they want, which is nonsense. Now, I think this is slightly different, Mr. G, because essentially we need a player that can take on a man that is versatile, that can, light up a game. That's not Rodrigo Muniz. Muniz is more of a getting behind the back line and finish. And essentially, I don't think we should be spending 50 odd million on that. However, I think we need a number 6, which we'll come on to perhaps at the end of the video. I think we certainly need a player that's on a wide position, probably on the right-hand side, especially as we've now signed Tell on a permanent for the left, that can do things differently to Johnson in different games. And so I get your point, but I feel like this is much more needed. But the latest on it is that apparently Tottenham consider increasing their offer for Muniz. There was some reports, Frank will probably correct me, that around £32 million. Apparently, we've had a bid rejected. Again, not a tier 1 source, but Tottenham's initial offer was rejected, and that recent reports suggest that Tottenham are interested in this centre forward. Again, just want to clarify, this is definitely not, top 100%, tier 1 sources, as we were talking about Kudus. That is real. That is someone we're definitely going for, but Muniz is clearly on our radar, along with a few other players. I've also read that we're also linked with Anthony Robinson, the Fulham left back, as well. So potentially, another option. Obviously, Reguilon went out the door. Maybe we need some more cover for Udogie, especially as he does seem to be a little bit injury prone, unfortunately. So, Frank, just a question for you, because I feel like this one, and also, guys, whack in the comments and the live chat and the comments if you're watching after. Frank, let me know what your top 3 positions are that Spurs need before this window sort of ends. Because for me, and we haven't talked about it, a number 6 has to be signed for this Thomas Frank system. We've mentioned it in other videos. I think for sure we need some sort of backup in that right wing area, or potentially in the 10, depending if Kulusevski is going to be playing a number 10 or the right wing, is he going to be a backup to Maddison or not? And I think there's also talks, I think it's fair to say potentially in the attacking options or a left back. So I know it's hard to get a top 3, but for me, I think number 6 is the most important, and I'm surprised we haven't been linked with more. What's your thoughts?
I think that I agree with the 6. I mean, first thing that kind of, I think a 6 and a striker are actually the 2 most important. Basuma, I think, will go, and I think Richarlison will go. So I think those 2 are really key, as I say, because if you don't have another out-and-out number 9. And I think we need, as I said, that you need someone that can come in when you're playing a Champions League game away at Atletico Madrid on a Wednesday night, and then you've got Everton at home on the weekend. You can leave Solanke out for the Everton game and still be comfortable enough with who you're bringing in.
Correct.
And right now, if we're playing Atletico Madrid on a Wednesday, I'm sitting there going, is Richarlison even fit for Saturday? And that's kind of the worry. So I think a striker is really important. I think a 6 is really important. I would look to go with a slightly older 6. I don't think we have any leaders at Tottenham, or many leaders. I think Romero is. I think outside of that, I don't think we have a real leader. And I think so. The captaincy is a bit of an issue, I think, at Tottenham actually this summer. That someone that, like when United had Keane and Arsenal had Vieira, and you can go back through all the captains over time with successful teams. Someone that can come in and if it's going wrong, really picks that team up. I love Archie Gray, but the guy's 19. And so he's going to come in and hasn't properly played in that level yet, or like consistently enough, and isn't going to lead you and take you forward. I think he's brilliant, but you need someone that's almost older to coach Archie Gray through, for example, and yet still be able to lead himself. So you've kind of got to go out for me and find a leader of a 6 that's also a good enough player. If Modric was 3 or 4 years younger, that would have been sort of kind of ideal, I think.
100%.
But not him. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't sort of think on. We were linked to, spoke about before. I can't say his name, but the guy at Sporting Lisbon, Hoyland or whatever his name is.
Hoyland, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
So from what you've just mentioned there, are you saying that a Paulinho doesn't fit? You know,
to be honest, someone like that, someone that's played at a top level but is experienced enough to help sort of G everyone up. He's one. There was one I was thinking of the other day who's gone out of my mind. I can't think of who it was. But a lot of these sorts of guys that have played at top levels and can actually pick the rest of them up around them, because we've got a young side that haven't really had to deal with, other than this season's sort of things going constantly against them. And sometimes, like when you're playing if you're even on a good run, you need someone to sort of drive you through that. Like if we're on a good run and then we go 1-0 down at Everton next year, you know, we're 3rd in the league at Christmas or whatever it is, and we go 1-0 down at Everton, you need someone to be able to pick you up and not just go there and roll over. And so many times Tottenham roll over because they don't have someone to really G them up. So a leader of a 6, a number 9, and then the last one kind of depends on Romero a little bit. If Romero goes, a centre-back's biggest priority, I'd argue, because you need an elite centre-half. If he stays, then I think that sort of 10 right winger, the Kudus, Eze type, Xavi Simons, that sort of role that can kind of play in a couple of different positions on the front line, that's a top player. But then I wouldn't also look past, like, I think I wouldn't say it's you have to go and spend 50 million on one, but Spurs need a fullback as well.
Yeah, similar to what Mr. G's saying. He's gone right wing 6 and then a centre back, left back hybrid, sort of what you were, I guess, alluding to, that could essentially almost like a Ben Davies, but a fresh version of him, right? You know, because essentially, you know, Ben Davies has been a great servant to Tottenham. Obviously, a lot of people think he should have gone years ago, but I actually think he's been, you know, pretty solid throughout. You know, obviously had his blips, but you know, obviously he's getting on now. He's likely to. Well, he's had a 1-year contract extension, so he probably will be leaving next summer. We essentially need to replace him because he's a great versatile player, and he's sort of a player that you need in the squad. But Henry's saying, COYS, big up Henry, and big up everyone in the chat. There's about 40 of you watching on YouTube, 45 watching on YouTube and Facebook combined. On the YouTube, I can see 11 likes, guys, 11 likes. And you know, I only plugged this twice in the whole video, so I haven't actually done it in about 28 minutes. So if everyone could smash like if you do enjoy this content, these live streams. Also subscribe to SpursRelated if you are new. We keep doing these daily videos. We keep keeping you guys entertained, interacting with you guys, and really, I just love discussing everything transfer news. So please do keep supporting. I really do appreciate it. Frank and I really appreciate it. And also whack your comments in if you're watching on repeat. Lots of you watch on repeat. I love it. Whack your comments in. I love to reply to every single one of them. And tell your mates about SpursRelated. Let them know. Let them know that this is a channel that goes live daily. And if you want to be the added, you know, top tier 1 person of SpursRelated, whack the notification bell on so you never miss us going live or you never miss a new video. But that's enough plugging for now because I only do it twice a video. Henry's saying Kudus, Baleba, and Hincapié would be a good window. Thoughts? I mean, Baleba, by the way, I've seen him play a few times. Top player. Like he's almost what Brighton used to have in Basuma, but I think he's even better. He's even better. Probably going to end up at Chelsea for 80 million next season. DFST said shouldn't need a centre back unless Kuti goes. Have 4 and 2 or 3 young ones. Jury is out on Danzo and Radu. As many, I think the jury's out on Dragusin. I don't think the jury's out on Danso. I think Danso's been pretty solid since he's come in. I think he's probably only had one bad moment. Other than that, every time he comes on, he looks solid. I really like him. Radu looked a gem in the Euros. I agree with that. And Ball hung everyone defensively out to dry. Exactly. We need to give some of these players some time under a new manager in a new system. That is for sure. Hincapie's mustard. Big Bad Rom is probably the first time I've agreed with you this video. Completely agree. And he doesn't like Adam Wharton. Adam Wharton is just not going to be signed. It's not going to happen. Hincapie would be the hybrid of the centre back and left back, wouldn't he, Frank? As we've been discussing. We go for another few minutes. Well, couple minutes. I know, Frank, we've got to go. What I think is interesting. I say interesting. You know, it's a bit of a sign of how long we've got left, right? Is the fact that Thomas Frank started to meet more of the players. Players are returning to training, and he's obviously getting to look at some of the players that essentially are 50-50 as to whether they're leaving. I'm thinking the likes of Emmanuel Solomon. I'm thinking, a couple of other players that essentially may or may not stay around. Maybe some of the younger players, Dorrington, perhaps, Vuskovic. I think there's definitely a few players up for debate on this. There's Vuskovic, as we were talking about him, coming in, meeting the new manager. Frank, what do you think is likely to happen, in the next few days after Thomas Frank's had a look at these players? Like, who do you think is likely going to be going? Because we haven't actually got rid of too many players other than the ones that the contracts expired, right? And we do need, essentially, to make room for players if they're coming in, we need to get rid of a couple.
Of course. I mean, one thing that he'll see a lot of obviously all the non-internationals are there now. So a lot of the younger kids will be there. Some of the others, like Kudus went back. Bergveld is a young kid, but he's a first teamer. Solanke went back. I think that we will see a couple more of the young kids go out on loan. I mean, I don't know. I think he'll want to see like people like Jamie Donnelly. I think he'll want to have a look at in pre-season. Same with certainly in like the Reading and Luton games. Same with George Abbott. Mikey Moore's another one. Will Lancashire. That sort of bracket of young players who all look like good talents, but as I said before, with the Champions League, they're not going to get overly much game time unless it's like in the first round of the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. So if they go, it wouldn't shock me if those guys go out on good loans. I mean, I think the idea that they won't push ahead with signings until he's seen players, I think is a bit silly. I mean, they will know if Kudus is the one they really want, they will go and get Kudus regardless of whether he's seen the team or not. I think. They went back yesterday for some gym stuff. I imagine they won't start sort of training on grass until sort of this week. But it's not like it's the first time he's ever seen this Tottenham team. He's been in England for the last 7 years. He's been in the same league as them for 4 or 5. So he would have done his homework on a lot of these guys in the past, and he'll know what he thinks of them from the outside. He obviously has to see that a different perspective from the inside. But in that case, I think that if he wants Mohamed Kudus, I don't think seeing the likes of Brennan Johnson is going to change that, because there's a gap in the squad for another player in that sort of role. So I think they'll get a little bit of business done this week, or sort of edge closer to getting some business done this week. There'll be some more news on that certainly. And I think he'll just sort of take some time to see what he thinks of some of the guys, because he might sit there and at the end of it and go, you know what, I think that Jamie Donnelly is I can get more out of Jamie Donnelly than I could out of spending 70 million on Eze. It's just not necessarily the case, but we've seen him, progress youngsters and young players and whatever to a really high level. And so maybe he sits there and goes, this, Jamie Donnelly or George Abbott, these guys are really talented kids. They're really, really top players. I can make them into £70 million players, and then I don't have to buy Eze for that. And so maybe, and then I can put that money elsewhere and whatever. So it will be an interesting week. I mean, the Reading and the Luton games for me will be the two biggest sort of tellers of pre-season with those young kids, because I think they'll be the ones where they get most of a chance. And then I think when we play Arsenal and Bayern Munich and Newcastle and obviously PSG in the Super Cup, that will be a lot more the real first team and what he's going to look to line up with this season.
100%.
But yeah,
no, 100%. Is it? Yeah, that Reading and Luton game. Essentially, yeah, we're not going to see many first team players in those games, are we? We're going to really see some experimenting with the younger players and to see who potentially could be a fringe centre back or on that bench. Come the start of the season, the start of the Premier League season. Miss G saying we said they wouldn't get much game time last season and then injuries decimated the squad. Yeah, you never know what's around the corner. He said I can see one of Vuskovic and Phillips staying. Big Bad Rum saying 2 monsters at 6 foot, and I can't wait for Phillips and Vuskovic to be on the same pitch together in our colours. Love Jamie Donnelly. He's an intelligent player. Absolutely. Guys, we'll wrap things up. We'll talk. As a final talking point for the comments below, if people are watching on repeat, as I said, I love the people that comment after the live's gone out. Let me know who your top 3 signings are. And I've got to say, I know you mentioned it at the start, Frank, but apparently Fabrizio Romano has just said Gyökeres and Arsenal, here we go, can be very, very soon. So that's going to happen, it looks like, which is annoying because I really like Victor Gyökeres. I think he's a top player, but we have to focus on what we're doing, and hopefully that gives the board a bit of a kick up the backside that's needed to start this transfer window. Because guess what? 6th of July and we still haven't made any more signings. So we need to do something pretty soon. I said I wouldn't get annoyed till the middle of July. We're getting pretty close, Frank. Sort of this time next week, we're sort of thinking, what's going on? Will Kudus be a here we go in the next couple of days? Let's find out. But guys, as I said, do what Big Bad Rom's doing. Keith Smith, Gyökeres, Eze. I'll tell you what, Gyökeres isn't happening, mate, because as I just said, he's gone to Arsenal. So that's a not very good start on that one. But guys, smash like on this video. Thank you so much for all of you guys watching this early on a Saturday, on a Sunday. I really appreciate it. Subscribe to SpursRelated. Turn on those notification bells. This is all free to do, and it helps us out massively. And comment your thoughts on everything Tottenham Hotspur transfer news. Frank Thomas, not Thomas Frank, our AI version. Thanks very much for joining me as always, mate.
Thank you for having me again. At least we had a little bit of news today to cover with Kudus. So hopefully it builds up this week.
Absolutely. Guys, thanks so much again. Really appreciate it. Like I said, really appreciate all the support. Smash like, smash subscribe, smash your comments, smash the noti bells, and we'll see you very soon for another Spurs related live stream or video. As always, come on you Spurs. Come on.